Termites. It's night 93. Can you believe that? I think we're going to finish the book in less than 100 nights. Isn't that exciting? Yes, it is. What are we drinking? Tonight, one of my favorite places on earth is Banff. Do you know that? It's in Canada. It's in Alberta. It's like going to Europe without having to go to Europe. Picture, I don't know, a snow town. It's very snowy, but I like to go in the summer for golf. Me and Louis go there, and I brought this home last time. It's maple rye. They call it an unaged blended spirit. It's called Park Maple Rye from Banff. I would recommend it as a vacation area, although I think because we've been behaving poorly as American termites, we're not allowed in Canada right now. But I've also read that some Canadian termites have been behaving poorly too, and the COVID is on the uptick. And sadly, your strip bars, which I don't know why strip clubs are allowed to be open in Toronto, but they were social distancing anyway because you can't touch the strippers. Those had to shut back down. So guess what, termites? If you want your strip bars to be open, behave. It's the lesson there. Well, we left Tanya. She'd been very depressed. So in her levels of depression, she called her OBGYN, which would seem natural. She got help, though. That was the important thing. And she got up and started functioning again. And it was a very not quick, but a very intense brush with depression. She's still deciding what to do with the boyfriend, Ben. And here we go. All this time, Ben and I were going back and forth trying to figure out if we could make something work between us. Oh, by the way, there was a visit from the Grand Termite, and he does have a message for all of you. I just haven't decided when I'll be playing it. It might be at the end of this book. It's really intense. He takes his job very seriously as being the Grand Termite. And he sat right in this chair. We were going to read one together, but then we started golfing and drinking and golfing. And, you know, he had to go on down the road to go see his mama in Florida. All this time, Ben and I were going back and forth to see if we could figure out something to make something work between us. I will say that sometimes when I was riding on the bus or sitting in a hotel room, I thought I would die without him, especially when he had the kids and I was alone. Even though I don't like to admit it now, all I have to do is read back over my diaries at the time. I did not picture her as a diarist. Nope. And I know I thought about him a good deal. I have friends who believe Ben and I will work everything out. I'm just happy to report we are good parents together, and that's the most important thing. Absolutely. No matter how much we cared for each other, we seemed to argue all the time. Once we got into an argument over a dream I had about him and another woman. Then we got into an argument because he was up for a film role to play a homosexual, and that part required him to kiss another man. I told him he should take it, but Ben said he just couldn't do it. I couldn't believe that he was homophobic, and we ended up having a huge fight. I said he was missing an opportunity to get his career into high gear. Yeah, because, like I said from the beginning, have you been on Fantasy Island or not? That would have been my litmus test back in the 70s. Simple yes or no. If the answer is no, you're not in high gear. That started another argument. But then everything would be great and we'd forget what we were fighting about. In the middle of trying to figure out my relationship with Ben, I moved once again. What? I was sitting on the bus late in the afternoon in August when Dad phoned and said he booked me on a flight to Nashville the next morning. I'm thinking of buying another ranch, he told me. I want you to come and see it. Man, I thought, here we go again. Exactly, stop it. You don't have to do this. I caught a plane as he'd asked and flew to Nashville where a car picked me up, took me to Deer Park Farms. We drove in and I about died. The property had this long, winding drive up to a 3-story home with, I found out later, 4,000 square feet of covered porches, balconies, and verandas. Driving up, I saw a gazebo, a small private lake with a covered picnic pavilion, and a guest house that looked about the same size as a songhouse. The house itself was nearly 30,000 square feet. What You don't need all that. And it had a huge master suite with a sitting area and a fireplace, and his and hers walk-in closets, and his and hers bathrooms with heated marble floors. Walk through it, try a roller skate, because I had to get back to do a show that night. I couldn't believe the size of the place. It had 10-foot ceilings and 10, count them, wood-burning fireplaces. It also had a gourmet kitchen with 4 ovens and 2 warming ovens. The people who were living there had it decorated beautifully. I felt like I was walking through a palace. Then we went to the area I really cared about, the stock area. There was a nice house waiting for a stockman to move in a 6-stall barn, corrals, breaking pens, cattle pens, and a rodeo-sized area for team roping. That's all I had to see. Looks good to me, I said. Then I headed back to the airport so I could fly back in time to make my show. Oh, my God. The amount of responsibility. Now you're going to be on the road forever. If you don't want to be, you've lost the option. Oh, my God. I just looks good to me. Didn't ask about, well, what are the taxes? What are the property taxes on a shindig like this? Next time I saw Deer Park Farms, Dad had bought it, and it was empty, and it felt like the world's biggest ghost town. I walked through the house with Tootie. That's her friend, not Judy. Tootie. And all I could do was shake my head and say, man, oh man, how am I ever going to fill this place up? How about pay for it? Then every time I'd pick up a decorating magazine or when the bus would roll into a city like Charleston, South Carolina, where they had so many old, gorgeous homes, I'd get excited about furnishing it. And I did pick up a few pieces on the road. I bought a table and chairs and a sideboard in Augusta, Georgia, and I made arrangements to have some of my old couches and chairs recovered. But every time I got back to Nashville and walked through that monstrosity of a house, all I could see was empty space. And all I could hear was an echo. Sorry, I'm coughing. It's not COVID. But in the end, it didn't matter. By the time I was back long enough to move in, the house had been decorated right down to the pictures on the wall. They do this to her every time. He tells her she's going to buy a house. She does it, and then they decorate it. I would shit if somebody decorated my house while I was on the road. I mean, some of it I would like. I don't care about glassware and stuff, but that's kind of ballsy to go, we'll decide what paintings are on the wall. I do not blame my staff and parents for doing it. Someone had bought the house in Hidden Valley, so I had to get moved to Deer Park, and I wasn't there to oversee. But when I walked through the house and saw this memorabilia that supposedly meant something to me, and it didn't feel like home. I felt like a stranger in my own home. As usual, I went out on tour and pushed the house to the back of my mind. Sometimes when I'd come off the road, I'd climb off the bus and not even go inside the house. I'd head straight to the barn and look at the horses. That's where it felt more like home. We're on chapter 58, by the way. We're almost done. Seriously. I'd say 2 more. Maybe only 1 more. We're getting close. And then we'll move on to something even crazier. The next year, I was so busy with my career that home was my new bus anyway. As a matter of fact, it was the one home I'd planned myself and the one in which I now travel. My Liberty Lady coach was built in Chicago, and traveling around in it is a far cry from that old Chrysler station wagon or the variety of buses we'd owned or leased throughout the years. Here's what I've learned, not from my own experience, from other comedians. And most comedians don't have buses. Some do. Don't ever buy a bus. If anybody offers you, unless you're going to park it in your yard and use it as a permanent bar. Lease a bus is what I've learned. Also, they're expensive. It's about $6,000 a week to run a bus. Maybe more. Yeah, the bigger the circus, the more money. But I think in music, sometimes the labels pay for it. And it's not happening in comedy. You see Senor Blanco, a.k.a. Ron White, he bought that bus, which I don't think was the smartest thing I've heard, but who am I to say? I first noticed this line of coaches early in this year when I was playing a big outdoor festival. Once I went inside one of them, I was sold. The bus manufacturers invited me to come to Chicago and pick out everything from the fabric for the furniture to the floor coverings and window shades. Lady Liberty has a huge front living section and 2 big couches. It's still a bus. I have been in a million of them. Yeah, they can be tricked out, but it's still a narrow thing, bed in the back. The bathrooms suck. don't matter what you do to it. It's a bus. I like the rhythm of it, but I like to sleep on them, but in a bunk bed, and then I pretend like I'm 12. I chose a color scheme of cream, lavender, black, and turquoise. And much of the glass throughout the bus is decorated with etchings of horses. The kitchen dining area has a seating area, full-size refrigerator, sink, microwave, and standard stovetop. There's an air door opening into the bathroom, which has a marble floor, full-size shower, vanity, and commode. There's also a pantry with a washer and dryer. Then another air door opens to my bedroom, which has enough closet space I no longer have to carry my stage clothes on another bus. My wardrobe assistant and I usually go over the concert dates and bring enough costumes. Wow. God, I know they do it up. Maybe I'm lazy. I just wear jeans and a shirt. If it's an outdoor festival, I'll probably wear something like a short leather overall outfit. If it's a big club, then I'll bring out the spangles. Whew. There are 2 televisions and 2 stereo systems inside the main part of the bus, and underneath, just in case we should park and want to pipe music out for a picnic. Another great feature of this bus, it has a video security monitor, so she can look for that stalker, so I can tell who's knocking at the front of the bus door even if I'm back in my bedroom. We can do business easily from the Lady Liberty, has 6 phones and a fax machine. This was in 1994. And like they all have DirecTV right now, but it's shitty. Lewis has a bus, and I've ridden on it, and we'll be watching something, and there's no storm or rain, and all of a sudden, and then we're just done. That's the end of that game. It's not perfected. And 1994 was a big year for doing business from that bus. All 4 singles from Soon, that's her album, were hit records. The title cut, We Don't Have to Do This, Hanging In, and You Just Watch Me. Oh, wow. Jimmy Bowen made a good on his promise that my records would be gold and platinum. Sales were strong. In fact, the label decided to put together a box set that November. The collection included not only recent hits, but many of the early hits, which Jerry and I had re-recorded. The label said I was the youngest female recording artist to have her recordings collected in a box set, and although I didn't know if that was true, it sure sounded great. Sure, well, I would believe it too. Who cares? Other highlights of that year were my Black Velvet tour and the Smooth Steppin' Showdown Dance Contest, where we raised thousands of dollars for multiple sclerosis. That was also the year I was inducted to the Hard Rock Cafe's Walk of Fame. I kicked off the year in January in 1994 at the Super Bowl, in Atlanta at the 1994 Super Bowl. Dallas playing Buffalo. Sorry, couldn't resist that. That's her little Dallas joke. I went with Dixie Panetta, who'd moved to Nashville to start her own PR company. We worked so well on the Black Velvet campaign, I became her first client. I will say there's such a thing as having too good of a press agent. Dixie had booked me solid for 2 days prior to the Super Bowl. When we got to Atlanta, I didn't even want to get off the bus and face it all. I was about 30 minutes late from my first press conference. I got with the program fast, though, and spent the next 2 days in a flurry of interviews and photo opportunities just to make sure I was politically correct. One day I wore a Troy Aikman Dallas Cowboy jersey to the press event, and the next day my costume included a Jim Kelly Buffalo Bills shirt, just a shirt, not a jersey. One of the best times we had in Atlanta was at the NFL Experience, where kids can play interactive football games, throw footballs through hoops, play passing games, and do other football-related activities. Most of the parents stood by and watched while the kids were having a big time in the play area. In lots of ways, I never felt like I was a kid. In others, I feel like I still am. So I pulled off my shoes and jumped right in the ring with Presley to join in to play anything she wanted to play. One night, right after we taped the CNN show, as Dixie and I were starting to cross the street, I opened a package of Lifesavers and offered one to Dixie, then popped one in my mouth. After a couple of steps, I realized Dixie was no longer beside me. When I turned around to look for her, she was standing in the road, her eyes wide open, her hand at her throat. The security man with us just froze when he saw her face, but I knew what had happened right away. She was choking on the lifesaver. People were just standing around staring at us, but nobody made a move. For the 3rd time in my life, I silently thanked my brother Don for saving my life and teaching me how to keep someone from choking. I grabbed her and quickly applied the Heimlich maneuver. The lifesaver shot out into the pavement, and I held Dixie while she stood there shaking and gagging. After she realized she was all right, she was so embarrassed at having been seen spitting up on the streets of Atlanta that she was the one that wanted to hide out on the bus. But she, too, thanked her lucky stars for Don Tucker. By the time the day of the show came, I'd almost forgotten why we were in Atlanta. There were 4 acts performing during the halftime. Oh, wow. So in 1994, I must have been watching. Why don't I remember this? The halftime act included Travis Tritt, Clint Black, and Winona Judd. I wore leather pants decorated with gold sequins and a gold beaded tank top and jacket, and I sang It's a Little Too Late and came off stage. Dixie asked me what it felt like to sing for such a huge television audience, to have millions of people tuning in watching me. I thought a minute and told her, honestly, the only face I could visualize watching me on those millions of television sets was my dad's. After all, as I admitted to Dixie, he's the one I've been trying to please all these years. I think most of us spent a good part of our lives trying to make our parents proud. Okay, well, I don't know if you go that far with it, but I'm glad she made her daddy happy. We're almost done, termites. Curious to see. This probably ends when she's 11. Kidding. She's probably 34, 35. I imagine there's going to be a page where we go over mistakes, errors, regrets. That's really all I got for you, termites. I have a toothache. I have a tooth pulled. That's always fun, right? I'm going to be like my parents. Eventually, what happens is the bone all right here, you really don't have a good bone anymore. And I don't know if you know this, but your teeth can just fall out like a goat or a baby. I've gotten those calls. One of them within the last year. We were at dinner and your father's tooth fell out. I go, what? What are you talking about? How did that happen? I don't know. It just fell out. So they're like Benjamin buttoning. They're going backwards. Teeth just fall. I said, well, tell him to put it under his pillow. Maybe the tooth fairy comes in reverse for old people. And maybe you'll get a reverse mortgage. Look under your pillow. Maybe you'll get an annuity. What else do old people do? Maybe you'll have a timeshare under your pillow if you put your tooth there. Okay, termites, I'm so excited. Just a couple more, we find out what the end of this book, and then we move on. It's all very exciting. I hope you guys are, college football's on. Go, right? I saw an Alabama fan this morning. His car was a piece of shit. Not that everybody's are. Not all Alabama fans have shitty cars, but this one was a particular train wreck of a car, and it was all Alabama. And then I saw him. He's smoking in the car, window only halfway down, and he's got his Alabama jersey on. Old guy, probably 70, and he was speeding. And I thought, wow, he must be late for the Alabama game somewhere, right? Well, then I got home and looked. First of all, Alabama's playing my team, Missouri. I didn't even know that, and the game wasn't until 6 o'clock at night. So he was a little early for the festivities because this was about 9:30 in the morning. So people are clearly fired up about that. And that's it. Are you guys tucked in? It's going to get cold soon. Well, not too soon, but soon enough that we can really get cozy. Then my fire will make sense to those of you who are going, why do you have a fire on? It's 7,000 degrees. It's to make it look cozy. Come on now, play along. This is the only set I have. That's it. Get your blanket, pull it up. Are you enjoying your t-shirts? I've ordered more. They're on the website. A lot more double X's, triple X termites out there. I got you. I got you covered. I was just thinking it's bullshit. They charged me more for those. I'm like, that's so mean. But they do. I'm not charging you more. Just saying. I pay more. And that's it. Pull that blanket up. Right here. Tuck yourself in, close your eyes. That's it. Night, night, termites.